Hi everyone, thanks for clicking on this video. This video is all about upgrading IMS skills from bidding for the 15-18 AHP programme to bidding for the 16-21 programme. The video is aimed at existing users of IMS who've done offers and offer lines in the system already. My name's Susan Roberts and I'm the IMS Training Manager based in the Programmes and Policy team at the HCA. This is the first training video that we've done like this. Hope you find it useful. In terms of what I'm going to cover in this session, which should last about 25 minutes, it's about inputting Shared Ownership and Affordable Homes Programme 1621 in IMS, not about the programme itself. So the 1621 bidding screens, so that's partnerships, offers, offer lines and sites, are almost identical to those for 15-18, hence why we're doing this upgrade in session for you. The presentation will look at the additional information required for bidding for the 1621 programme and anything that was in 15-18 that is no longer required. So the parts of the 1621 offer particularly that I'm going to look at are the partnership, the offer line and site. So taking each of those in turn, there is a new programme period. So you've previously had 11-15, 15-18, we've now got 16-21. Otherwise, everything in the partnership screens is identical to the 15-18 programme, other than a new partnership is obviously going to need to be set up for the programme period. In terms of the offer, there are minor changes within that. We'll come to those shortly. The offer line has a few more changes. So the changes are generally around subproducts under the programmes, unit screens and additional information. In terms of the site screens, they are identical to those for 15-18, and remember that you only need to fill in site information when you've got a firm offer line. I'm going to end with some reminders about bidding rounds and how to deal with programme queries in the interim. But just because this is a video, can I just remind you that if you want to stop, rewind and repeat at any point, you obviously can do. Okay, submitting 1621 and offers and offer line processes. We have guidance on our website. On screen, it tells you how to find that guidance. Funding programs is identified at the top of the HCA opening page. We then go to click on that and go to Investment Management System. That is IMS, Access Guidance and Support. And then once you've clicked on that one, it's the guidance documents themselves. And when you get to that page, you will notice that there are a number of different programme periods identified on there. For this programme, you want 1621 guidance, as shown on that little clip on screen. And currently there is only the bidding guidance there. As the programme develops, as we've got approved allocations, the claiming side of your payments will appear as guidance on there, but currently there is only the one bidding guidance. For those of you that have attended training in the past, you'll know that I have done flowcharts mapping the IMS guidance to the processes that you actually follow. I'm going to be using that to support new and inexperienced user for this round of training. If you haven't got a copy of this already and you would like a copy of the flowchart, please can you email the HCA IMS training inbox, the address of which is on screen, and we will send a copy across to you. Okay, so now the differences in the offer screens themselves. So, as I've already said, new programme periods. So anything that you're doing with an offer, make sure you pick up the 1621 programme period and not any of the others that are there. On 15-18, you had a supporting statement button. For 1621, that has been replaced by an employment and skills button. But the questions that you were asked on the previous supporting statement relating to employment and skills now appear here. I'll do a quick reminder on that because it's something that you only do once later on when we come to look at the detail of some of the screens. The affordable rent and shared ownership subproducts that were used in both 1115 and 1518 have been replaced with 4 new subproducts. And we'll see those later on when we come to look at the offer lines. Now to look at the offer screens themselves. But just as a quick reminder, the screens that I'm going to show you are blue. If you look at the guidance will tell you how to change from the default grey screens to the lunar blue theme that we use in all our guidance and generally in training. Okay, so the offer screen. So this is a 1621 offer screen. You will notice at the top that we have a partnership period of 1621. You'll notice an employment and skills button, which has replaced the button that was there before. And then subproduct names, you can't see affordable rent or affordable home ownership on their own. We've got some new subproduct names. So we've got Help to Buy shared ownership, Rent to Buy, and nil grant affordable rent. There is another one that we'll come to later on in connection with supported. Okay, so otherwise it looks identical to before. Okay, so now to look at the employment and skills questions. So they are the questions from 1518, as I identified previously. There are 4 questions that you need to answer, and I've put a little clip at the bottom of the screen here. So it is a series of questions, and against each, you have to identify a number. Now, the questions are very, very similar. So on this screen, one of the things that I've done is I've highlighted where the differences are. They are all around apprentices and employment opportunities. So the first 2 questions are about apprenticeships. So firstly, we have a question on the number of apprenticeships that have been safeguarded, but those safeguarding is not at level 3 or 4. And then the next question, same question, but rather than safeguarded, the number of apprenticeships created at those levels, entry 1 and 2. We then move on to 2 questions about employment opportunities. Okay, so for 16 to 23-year-olds, first of all, the question is at advanced level 3. And then the next question is about higher apprenticeship level 4 and above. So obviously within a large partnership, you will have to feed those numbers up to your lead so that they've got an overall programme total for those. Okay, so now moving on to the offer line screens themselves. So to summarise the changes that are there are 4 new replacement subproducts. There are changes around what was modern methods of construction. There's a change on the screen that previously was demolition. We've got some changes on the unit detail screen, some changes on capital contribution. Additional information will actually need to be added to most offer lines, and there are some changes around indicative offer lines. I'm going to look at each of those in a bit more detail now. So first of all, the subproducts. So there are now 4 to choose from. So on the screen clip before, we saw Help to Buy shared ownership, we saw Rent to Buy, and we also saw nil grant affordable rent. But we didn't see the third one on that list. We didn't see the specialist housing for rent. So there now are 4 subproducts that you can choose to bid against. Just a quick word about the nil grant affordable rent. Section 106 sites must be on an offer line with no other subproducts. So just watch that one if you're used to combining. Modern methods of construction used to be one of the drop downs on the offer line data. That has now been replaced by a drop down that is construction innovation. The list is identical to the modern methods of construction. The other thing that's different is there is no residential demolition question or statement for you to complete for each offer line. Moving on to the unit details, these unit detail changes only affect the firm lines. And some of the additional information that you were having to add as you profiled out for 1518 on the profiles and got ready to grant confirm, you now need to add onto the offer line. So that's specifically the number of stories per dwelling, the accessibility category of the unit, and the space standards question. And I've added on there about the works and on costs. They will appear as breakdowns later on within the profiles system. You are not required to enter those as offer line data. So looking at a screen clip, the first question over the left-hand side of the screen is number of stories per dwelling. And just as a reminder, if you've got a block of apartments and they are 10 stories high and each unit is on one level only, the answer to the question is 1, not 10. Okay, does tend to catch quite a lot of people out. It has been clarified in the past and now says per dwelling to make that question a bit clearer. Next, we come over to the right-hand side of the screen and we're asked to find the accessibility category of the unit. Just as a reminder where you can find that information, if you aren't familiar with that, you will find it via the Capital Funding Guide, and it is also in the RICS guidance. I'll tell you where to find the updated version of the Capital Funding Guide at the end of this presentation. The final bit of information that's new to offer lines is around space standards and the nationally described space standards and whether the units meet those. So there are 4 questions there. 3 of them are asking about meeting standards, and the first question asks, do they meet all the described space standards? If you select yes, the others below automatically populate to yes. Okay, so carrying on looking at those offer line changes, there are some changes in the capital contributions. Some of the categories that you can select have been changed to reflect the new programme. If you look at the guidance, that has the full details in there. But one that people may have used in the past is around conversions. Under this programme, conversions can only be used under specialist rent as one of the income streams. You're now required to add additional information for each offer line that fits a number of categories. So first of all, if an offer line is shared ownership, you will be asked to complete some additional information. If the scheme is for older people or vulnerable and disabled people, you will be asked again to complete additional information. And the questions are different for these. Similarly for construction innovation, if you identified a method on one of those drop downs that is a construction innovation, you'll be asked to add some detail behind that. That additional information will need to be entered before you are able to successfully validate an offer line and then hence validate and submit your offer. So just be aware it might take you a bit of time to get all that information together to be able to input in the system. Please don't leave that till the last minute because bidding will close at noon on the 2nd of September. So the additional information is on a new tab on each offer line, and it's the first screen rather than under the sub product. So looking at the shared ownership, you're asked to respond to 2 questions. What evidence and analysis make you confident that the proposed housing will be affordable for the target market? And what is your assessment of the sales risks and how will that be mitigated? Now that additional information will be needed for both firm and indicative shared ownership offer lines. The data will be entered into 3 text boxes, but obviously there will be a character limit on those boxes. And those last 2 points about the firm, indicative, and about the free text boxes apply to all the bits of additional information, the 3 sections that you may have to add. Okay, so under older people or vulnerable and disabled people, you're asked to respond to 5 questions. How will the proposed accommodation meet locally identified needs and complement existing services? Have local commissioning bodies been consulted? How will the topology, location and design of the accommodation ensure that it can continue to meet the needs of the relevant client groups. Bit about revenue funding. Is it needed for the intended operation of the accommodation? And has this been identified? And finally, what is the exit plan or alternate use for the building should commissioning priorities change in the future? In terms of construction innovation, there's just one question to respond to, which is, what are the expected benefits from this innovation? So that includes the scheme build cost, whole life cost, and in-use energy cost, and for the speed of scheme delivery. And what is the potential for wider adoption? Okay, moving on to indicative offer lines. For 1621, all partnerships can bid for indicative in this round. There's no pre-qualification needed like there was as part of 1518. One of the major changes is that under the geography, you now have the option to bid at an operating area level rather than at the previous minimum geographies that were within the system. When you come to look at indicative profiling of that delivery, it is now by quarter rather than by month. So we're going back to how it was under 1115 rather than by 1518. The bidding guidance has information on when indicative allocations need to be made firm, and I've tabulated that on the screen below. You may want to click pause at this point to make a note of that data, because I'm not going to go through talking through those. Okay, some reminders and the IMS programme. So you must add all the additional information before you submit. You can't submit it in IMS after you've submitted your offer, and your offer lines won't validate successfully without that missing information. Because we're in a bidding round rather than a CME, continuous market engagement process at the moment, when you want to submit, you need to first validate your offer lines, then validate the offer and submit the offer. Lots of you under CME will be used to validating offer lines and submitting offer lines. For this bidding round, you need to click on Submit on the offer after you've validated the offer. This is a bidding round that is closed, and by that we mean that HCA staff can't see what you're inputting or have input until the bidding round actually closes. Okay, so just be aware, if you're talking to your contacts, they can't actually physically see the detail of what you've input on screen. When the bidding closes, you won't be able to see what's being submitted unless we refer everything back to you until the assessment process has been completed and the outcomes notified to providers. Okay, if you submit an offer and then we need to make changes to it, the way that you do that depends on where we are within the bidding process. So first of all, if we're still within the bidding round and you need to make a change to a submitted offer, you need to go to that offer and you need to click on the Unsubmit button at the bottom of the screen. That will then allow you to go back into your offer lines and make changes. But as soon as the bidding is closed, that Unsubmit button will be disabled. If the bidding round is closed, then HCA staff will need to refer your offer back to you to make amends. So the easiest way to do that is to contact the business support team in the area where the offer line is based. If you haven't got a contact name or number, a switchboard, the numbers on screen, will be able to put you through. And what the business support team will be able to do is arrange for the offer and individual offer lines that you need to be amending to be referred back to you. What you will do is you'll make the amends, validate the offer lines, validate and submit the offer back to HCA. It's a very different process to what's happening currently under CME. Okay, in terms of your programme queries, first point of call should be the capital funding guide, which contains the procedures and requirements around delivering grant for this programme. It has been updated for the 1621 programme, but the Capital Funding Guide has also been updated and is now on the .gov site if you're not aware of that. Okay, I've given you the full address on screen. Again, maybe a point at which you want to pause to make a note of that full address. During the bidding round, if you have any questions about bidding, if you please email the address that's in the prospectus, which is ahpfaq@hca.gsi.gov.uk, or contact your local HCA area team. It's worthwhile checking on the programme page on the HCA website for additional information in response to questions that are received. If you've got any training queries, you can email the IMS training inbox. I gave you that address before, but it's on screen again for you now. Okay, thank you very much for viewing this video. Hope you found it useful. First one that we've done. So if you do have any feedback, if you could send that to the HCA IMS training inbox, that would be much appreciated. So that is hcaims.training@hca.gsi.gov.uk. Okay, thanks very much for listening.